What is going on, everyone? It's your boy 3MJ. We are back with another video. Now I want to talk about the Xbox One and overall just their issues with the lack of games, because I've been watching podcasts, I've been watching people's videos, and they're discussing everything related to the topic, but it's still unclear as to why Microsoft is going through the bullshit with their Xbox One and lack of games. And I'm going to go ahead and answer this for you. So first things first, I want to get this clear that since the OG Xbox, they never had a dominant presence overseas, and the Japanese demographic was never as dominant. They rarely had any support. Same thing with the UK market, except for during the 360 era, they had a little bit of a presence because of competitive gaming was huge over there. Other than that, yeah, they're struggling a lot in the Japanese market. Now, I also have to respond to this. I've heard arguments that PlayStation only has mostly third-party exclusives. They don't really have that many in-house exclusives or whatnot. And the argument is kind of ridiculous. Also, some background history. When Sony opened up their console brand in the US market, it also opened up doors for developers to come make games for them. Hence, the strong relationship that they have with companies like Naughty Dog, Guerrilla Games, and at some point Rockstar. Well, now Rockstar makes games for multiple consoles and platforms, but at some point they had a strong presence and a strong relationship with these companies. It is what it is. That's why you see a lot of third-party exclusives. Sony's been around for years, and I think people forget that. So I don't really discredit them for having more third-party, because if you really look at it, third-party exclusives are bangers. And no disrespect, but Xbox has weak-ass third-party or first-party in-house, whatever exclusives. At this point, I'm in love with Halo, right? I love Halo, the franchise, but that shit has died. Come on now, stop acting like this shit it can be revived somehow. This shit is dry as fuck. Gears of War, never really been a huge fan. I was a fan of the first two, then I just went away from it, so I'm not gonna really judge that game. I played Gears 4 story. Gears of War Judgment was garbage. But then Forza has a strong presence, just like we have Gran Turismo, we have Forza as well. Those are strong, like, I guess, racing simulator games that can come out yearly, as well as Forza Horizon. But what other strong IPs does Xbox have? Now, to be quite honest, if say I'm an Xbox fanboy or whatever, I wouldn't even want to touch the conversation of, oh, that's why Sony only has third-party exclusives, because almost every third-party exclusive that has dropped on PlayStation has wiped the floor of every in-house Sony game. For example, God of War, Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, maybe Killzone's trashed in my opinion, but those three games alone make a strong presence, even if they're third-party exclusives. Compared to what, Halo, Gears, and Forza? Like, stop it already. And I wouldn't even want to make any argument, because what games are we really waiting for on the Xbox? Sea of Thieves is complete trash. It's a beautiful looking game that is complete, utter trash. So when we say Xbox don't have any games, it's not saying literally, physically don't have any games. We're talking about any good ass games, and maybe to one or two people, yeah, it's good, but really critiquing these games, if you're a content creator, really acknowledge like, yo, this game is garbage out here in these streets. The game is trash. Sea of Thieves don't really compare to anything that Nintendo, Sony, or whatever other brand has, because it's so empty of a world. It has no content. So we're still waiting for games. That was just one game that came out that was just a miss. So that game flopped, believe it or not. Where's that shit being streamed at? I don't know. The only people that streamed it were the ones who got those deals from fucking Rare that they paid. That's about it to stream it. Other than that, you don't see that game out here in these streets being streamed. So that's the point I'm trying to make. They don't really have that many heavy-hitting games. And that's why it confuses me when people make these statements that the Xbox 360 was the most dominant console last generation. No, it was not. It had a huge presence, it had a huge demographic and support base, but it only dominated in certain aspects. For example, Microsoft as a brand has always been a competitor for other brands. For example, they jumped onto Windows, right? When they started developing Windows, they went up against Linux, they went up against some other shit, and they went up against OS X, which is from Mac, right? They went up against them. They went up against other people for their software, their hardware, and when it came down to the Xbox 360, they wanted to make sure that that can be the console for competitive gaming. Therefore, they acquired rights. They got partnership deals for DLC with Call of Duty. Championships and all those other tournaments were through the Xbox 360 because of required deals and partnership rights. Same thing with EA. They acquired the rights to drop their games or commercials or whatever. That's always been their thing. They've never really had a strong exclusive base of games. For example, it's always been Halo, Gears, Forza, and a select other few of titles that were never that huge. So that's why it confuses me when people make these stupid ass arguments. I'm not impressed that a certain game comes out early first on Xbox or even on PlayStation. That's just stupid to me. But I would not be impressed that they were dominating the exclusive partnerships for like 1 or 2 month deals. That's so stupid. The fact that people were championing the fact that Call of Duty DLC came out first on Xbox. That's what you guys are hyping up. That's what they were dominating. They were dominating in the competitive space. Now I give them credit. That was the place to play competitive games. The Xbox 360 was that place to play first-person shooters and sports games, in my opinion. fighting games, I would say the PlayStation, but also with the fight stick in general, whatever. But Xbox 360 was the place to play competitive gaming. But the influence now that we have in gaming, no one gives a fuck. Everybody jumped on board with PlayStation. Activision said, screw that, we're jumping on board with PlayStation. Why? It ain't because they got the best partnership deal, no, because they have the majority of their fan base. That's what was happening with the 360. They never dominated in all these other numerals of fucking video games or exclusives. They never had that strong presence. So I don't know why people make these stupid ass statements. So when you see the struggle with the lack of video games on the Xbox platform, don't be shocked. This has always been a thing. They always had their select few of exclusives, but they never had a large library that comes out every single year for their exclusive titles. They've always been the platform for competitive gaming. And now that a lot of these competitive games have jumped on either PC only or on PS4, it's looking very dry out there. So let me clear that up again. Stop debating and arguing that Sony only has third-party exclusives, because once again, they have such a strong presence being a Japanese platform into the US market, and the fact that they open up doors very early in their career to developers to make games for them. That's why they have such a great relationship with these developers. Kojima Productions, of course, is Japanese, whatever. But you also have Santa Monica Studios. Rockstar still supports them heavily. You have, I just named the other ones, whatever. But the fact that they have a strong presence in that demographic as well. The fact that, once again, it's a Japanese company and it has such a huge impact here. Stop being surprised. Stop making these stupid arguments that Xbox had great exclusives. They don't have shit that good. Sea of Thieves is dry. So therefore, they still don't have no games. When they gave us that one game that came out like 10 years later, or Shadow of the Colossus, I don't really care for those games. Like, they're okay to me, but they're not the best. So I still say, like, nah, we still haven't gotten exclusive yet. That's how I look at it. But then you get games like God of War, you get games like Horizon Zero Dawn. You look at it like, yeah, Xbox don't have shit like that. But I'm out here, man. It's your boy Tony G. God bless everybody, man.